Near-death experiences have long captivated our imagination, with stories of white light, encounters with deceased loved ones, and hearing voices being deeply ingrained in our cultural fabric. The consistent elements in these experiences have led scientists to ponder whether they reveal a form of consciousness that persists even after the heart has stopped beating. A groundbreaking study, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, provides some preliminary evidence of increased brain activity associated with consciousness in the moments leading up to death. The study, spearheaded by Dr. Jima Borjajan, is a continuation of animal research conducted nearly a decade ago in collaboration with Dr. George Mashar, the founding director of the Michigan Center for Consciousness Science. The researchers observed comparable gamma activation signatures in the dying brains of both animals and humans following oxygen deprivation caused by cardiac arrest. Dr. Mashar stated that how vivid experience can emerge from a dysfunctional brain during the process of dying is a neuroscientific paradox. Dr. Borjajan has led an important study that helps shed light on the underlying neurophysiological mechanisms. The research team identified 4 patients who died from cardiac arrest while being monitored by an EEG in the hospital. All 4 were comatose and unresponsive, and with the consent of their families, removed from life support after being deemed beyond medical help. Upon withdrawal of ventilator support, 2 of the patients exhibited an increase in heart rate accompanied by a surge of gamma-wave activity, known as the fastest brain activity and linked to consciousness. The surge of activity was observed in the hot zone of neural correlates of consciousness in the brain, located at the junction between the temporal, parietal, and occipital lobes. This region has been associated with dreaming, visual hallucinations in epilepsy, and altered states of consciousness in previous studies. Dr. Nesha Mihailova explained that these 2 patients had a history of seizures, but experienced none during the hour before their deaths. The other 2 patients displayed neither an increase in heart rate upon removal from life support nor heightened brain activity. Despite these intriguing results, the researchers caution against drawing definitive conclusions due to the limited sample size. Additionally, it is impossible to know what the patients experienced, as they did not survive. We are unable to make correlations of the observed neural signatures of consciousness with a corresponding experience in the same patients in this study. However, the observed findings are definitely exciting and provide a new framework for our understanding of covert consciousness in the dying humans, said Dr. Mihailova. Near-death experiences, NDEs, are profound psychological events that typically occur when an individual is close to death or undergoes a life-threatening situation. These experiences often share a set of common elements and can leave a lasting impact on those who experience them.
We're back now with a story that got us all talking and thinking today. It's a fascinating new study about the mysteries of death, what happens to our brains and bodies, and what it might really be like to die. And Thompson explains.
The moments after death.
Mr. Pendleton, you know where you are, don't you?
Hollywood imagined Warren Beatty greeted by James Mason and Buck Henry in Heaven Can Wait. Kiefer Sutherland and Kevin Bacon revisited their sins in Flatliners.
So was it, Dave? Was today a good day to die?
Mary Curran Hackett experienced none of those things.
It was like almost going home, and there was nothing to be afraid of.
The Cincinnati writer's heart stopped for several minutes in the hospital in 2004.
When I could see everything, feel everything, hear everything, even though I know now I was medically dying. I felt an overwhelming rush and almost a pressure being pulled, like almost like a force field being pulled back into my body. Then I woke up and saw the doctors that I had been seeing working on me.
Experience like Hackett's part of a new scientific study published today. It found people who went into cardiac arrest and were brought back to life by CPR. Almost 40% had a recollection of dying. NYU's Dr. Sam Parnia is the lead researcher.
We found signs of normal brain electrical activity that is consistent with the types of things that we all have when we're fully conscious.
What does your study show about what happens to the brain after the heart stops?
Contrary to the way that doctors have been taught, that after the heart stops, the brain does not die. It hibernates, and it shows the ability to recover even an hour longer afterwards.
Parnia and Hackett are working on a book. Parnia hopes it will spur new innovation in resuscitation technology. Hackett hopes it will make us think.
If you talk about how you're going to die or what's going to happen when you die, it frames how you are going to live. And what could be more impactful?
As science tries to unlock the mystery of death. Ann Thompson, NBC News.
And almost from the beginning,
NDEs have been widely reported and documented by researchers, with many studies aiming to understand their nature and origin. Some common characteristics of near-death experiences include out-of-body experiences, OBEs. People often report feeling detached from their physical bodies, observing themselves and their surroundings from a different perspective. Entering a tunnel or dark space. Many NDEs include the sensation of moving through a dark tunnel or passageway, sometimes with a bright light at the end. Encounters with deceased loved ones or spiritual beings. During NDEs, individuals may feel they are in the presence of deceased friends or family members, or encounter spiritual beings such as angels or other divine entities. Some people report reliving their lives in a flash, often accompanied by an evaluation of their actions and decisions. Experiencing intense emotions. NDEs can be accompanied by overwhelming feelings of peace, love, joy, or even fear and distress. Encountering a barrier or border. In some cases, individuals reach a point where they feel they cannot proceed any further and must return to their physical bodies. Transformation and after effects. Many who experience NDEs report significant changes in their attitudes, beliefs, and values after the event. They may become more spiritual, compassionate, or altruistic.
well, a new study is giving us some insight into what it's like to go through a near-death experience. So with us to explain a little bit more is our health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli. Tell us a little about this study. This is fascinating.
Incredibly fascinating. And us in the medical community, for the longest time, we thought if somebody had a cardiac arrest, in other words, if their heart stops, we thought their brain just stopped. But this study is really flipping that thinking on its head. It's telling us that brain activity suggesting awareness can happen for 30 to 60 minutes after a cardiac arrest. And 40% of people who survive CPR with an in-hospital arrest actually recall what they experienced when they had this near-death experience. Yeah.
Does the study also look at the idea of learning during cardiac arrest?
Yes, a very difficult thing to study, as you can imagine.
Right.
But what they did is, while these people were in their cardiac arrest, they actually had them listen to words, and the words were apple, pear, banana. And they actually had images that flashed in front of them as well on a tablet. And, you know, of the few people that survived, some of them actually recalled the sequence, suggesting that their perception, their ability to hear and make memories was actually intact.
I want to ask you a little bit more about that because I was reading through the study, and one of the doctors on this case said that the patients had, quote, transcendent recalled experiences of death. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so what we saw of the people that survived it, there were a few different categories of experiences. So some people saw dead relatives, talking to them, communicating with them. Some people had this sort of emotional, overwhelming type of peace or calm experience that they had. Other people actually had frightening experiences. They had delusions of demons or something else. And then a few subset of people actually left their body, and this was when they were emerging from the coma. They were emerging after CPR and saw the medical team shocking them, doing treatments on them, and they were able to recall all this. So what we're realizing is that the brain, even though it was deprived of oxygen, so if you looked at the oxygen level from the brain in the study, very low, was still functioning as a computer and making networks, and these people were able to recall these experiences.
This is,
Wow.
I'm so interested. We could go down a rabbit hole with my question.
Was it a common experience amongst a lot of people? Like the scenarios you just described, were those the most common things, or?
They were, but it was very varied. And what I don't want us to think so much about is the experience itself, but more the idea that our brain stays alive even after our heart can kind of stop. Now, keep in mind, this was in-hospital cardiac arrest, so all these people got very high-quality CPR.
Sure.
So we don't know what would happen out in the community, especially if you don't get CPR, because the brain needs blood in order to even function at all. And so if you're not getting CPR, you would just shut off. But to me, it's really fascinating also because a lot of survivors of cardiac arrest we know can have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. And some of these experiences that they had could be what's partially contributing to how they feel after their particular rest.
So I was just going to say, like, how does that influence
Right.
your next steps? And that helps explain that.
And we just have about 20 seconds left. But one thing I want to make sure we include in this is this really highlights the importance of something like CPR, right? To know that somebody's brain is still functioning during that time.
Critical. Because you're not giving blood to their brain. You could entirely, of course, change their morbidity and mortality, but also if they do wake up and emerge, you could change what they remember and what they feel. So that brain is still working. Keep it going with the blood. And to me, it's a really incredible study. Opens the door for many more like this to learn about awareness, especially at the cusp of life and death, which we know so little about.
It's crazy to think this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the study. You wait till we find out more, right?
Could talk to you for hours, but we are out of time.
Some documented examples of near-death experiences include Dr. Eben Alexander's NDE. A neurosurgeon, Dr. Alexander experienced a profound NDE during a coma induced by bacterial meningitis. He reported visiting a beautiful, heavenly realm, encountering a divine being he identified as God, and receiving messages of love and interconnectedness. Pam Reynolds' NDE. During a complicated brain surgery, Pam Reynolds underwent a medically induced cardiac arrest to lower her body temperature. She reported an out-of-body experience, accurately describing events and conversations that occurred during her surgery, despite being clinically dead. Colton Burpo's NDE. At the age of 4, Colton Burpo underwent emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix. After the surgery, he reported visiting heaven, meeting deceased relatives, and receiving insights into his family's future. These examples and countless others have piqued the interest of researchers, leading to various theories and explanations for NDEs, ranging from physiological processes, e.g., lack of oxygen, the release of endorphins, or neurotransmitter imbalances, to transcendental or spiritual interpretations.